Hello and welcome to Pride of South London Fan TV. It's the year 2023 and Roy Hodgson is the favourite for the Palace job. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on Vieira sacking, whether it was the right thing to do, potential replacements, and the possibility of the return of Roy Ball. Right, let's get into it really. Overriding emotion is sadness. I feel very, very sorry, Patrick Vieira, whilst, as would have been obvious on my podcast over the last few months, there were warning signs. There were some strange decisions, strange selections, poor in-game management. But I always maintain there was lots of good about his management, and he was unlucky with a fixture run. And also, I think he's been hard done by. I don't think he was supported enough or given the tools this season to succeed. And the phrase I'm really looking for is collective responsibility. And I didn't really see that from Steve Parish's interview in the car. I don't know if you saw it earlier when he was pulling up for training. I actually, I'm a big advocate of Steve Parish. He's done amazing things, best chairman in my lifetime of this football club. But I thought really that interview in the car today, I thought that was the weakest I've seen him in terms of body language and tone. And listen, this Steve Parish in December was on record as saying that this was a good squad. This is not a good squad. Our fullbacks are poor. Mitchell's been poor, he's been out of form all season. Nathaniel Klein, listen, he was a great player in his day, but that was when Katie Price and Peter Andre were still a married couple. His days really are done. Everybody knows the central midfield situation. We've not had a striker all season. We lack depth. It's not a good squad. I think Parish is guilty of overestimating our squad and underestimating the brutality of this Premier League. And I sort of just vibed from his interview earlier today, a very brief thing as he pulled into the training ground, that he kind of deep down knows that. He knows he's dropped the ball. Listen, he's done so much more good for our football club than bad in his time here. But I want to hear from him. I want to hear from him properly. I want to hear him and the other board members take responsibility for this. I don't think we can say that Patrick Vieira is the square root of the problems at Crystal Palace at the moment. We know it's coming out today again further about issues between Parish and Textor. Blitzer and Harris have wanted to invest in any club but ours this season. And I think Vieira has every right to feel hard done by. And there's been rumblings, I think, going on in the background perhaps for a while, with it coming out today as well, that he was thinking about going for the Leeds job after not really being backed in the January window. Seems the writing's been on the wall for a while. That said, I think Patrick Vieira did some very, very strange decisions in his final months as Palace manager. And it eerily became like the end of his time at Nice. My feature video on this channel is Vieira What to Expect. And I had, quotes in that video from Nice players who said that, his philosophy wasn't clear by the end of his tenure there. And it certainly wasn't at the end of his tenure at Palace. I come back to three things with Vieira really this season. Number one, after the debacle at Nottingham Forest, which was a poor performance, anyone who was at Forest would know we didn't play very well that day. He had 6 weeks to sit on it. Come back after the World Cup, home to Fulham, and he does exactly the same thing, plays the same team, same system. We get beaten heavily. Then, second thing, we play Liverpool at home. Elise is man of the match. Vieira, even in his post-match press conference, is singing his praises. The next game at Villa, he moves Elise back to the centre after he played so well on the right against Liverpool. And then finally, it is in what must have been the game that he could have saved his job possibly against Brighton with 20 minutes to go. He's 1-0 down. He possibly needs a goal. I don't know if it would have saved his job or not. And what does he do? He takes Elise off for Jordan Ayew. I don't know the exact stats, who scored about 2 goals in 60 games. Elise is the one guy in the last month or so who's looked like making something happen. You need a goal to save your job, and he does that. So there were baffling things. And when you reflect on decisions like that, I think there were some baffling selections, some poor in-game management. But there was also a lot of good about Vieira in his management, and he had a lot of potential to be a good manager. And I think there's a way back for Vieira in management, actually. He's leaving us at 12th. He got to an FA Cup semi-final. If you think that Jess Marsh, after Leeds, can be linked with the Southampton job, I don't think Vieira's looking as dead and buried as, say, Gerrard and Lampard are. And I think, if he goes away and applies the lessons from this time at Palace, although some might argue he didn't apply the lessons from his time at Nice, maybe there is still a future for him as a manager. I do think we'll see him again. I don't think that's the last we'll see of him. And good luck to him because, I said it on social media earlier. For me, he came across as such a humble guy, given his stellar career. He embraced the club and fans, and I only wish him the best. And sorry, it didn't work out. But I do. Do you know what? I think the other thing is you have to look at his assistants, and I think it's very, very telling that it's been an absolute clear out today that all of his coaches and assistants have gone as well. Because I mean, you think about some of those decisions that he made, particularly, this used the example of the last game. They must have got rumblings that he potentially could have been fighting for his job, and you're sitting there and he's bringing off Michael Elise for Jordan Ayew. You'd think the assistant manager might go, "Are you sure about this, Pat?" There were certain decisions, and it's coming out in the media today that the assistant was, having quite a lot of say in selections and things like that. So I don't think he's been helped by his coaching staff. And, I think that young managers, they need somebody good, really, really strong alongside them. I always thought Lampard at Chelsea, whilst Jody Morris might be a good coach, I think Lampard needed more experience alongside of him. Everybody saw what happened to Gerrard once he lost Michael Beale as his assistant, and Michael Beale went on to his own managerial career. So I do think it was overall the whole setup was flawed. Listen, potentially now, where do we go? Who do I want to succeed Vieira? Listen, I think it has to be a short-term appointment. We saw how Leeds and Southampton struggled mid-season to make an appointment. I wouldn't mind Sam Allardyce. I know it's a cliche, but I wouldn't mind Big Sam Allardyce or Big Sam on the short term. I would rather that than the alternative, which seems to be Roy Hodgson. I think they'll go for Roy because he's a cheaper option. Maybe if Paddy could pull something out at Arsenal, he could be considered. I wouldn't be averse to that because he knows the academy players, and I think given the form of some of our players this season, we might as well tap into the academy. But it would be a risk, and I don't see them taking that risk because obviously the millions that are involved in staying in the Premier League I honestly think it's Roy, and I don't think that Parish is reading the room if he reappoints Roy Hodgson. I think Hodgson was quite lucky in a way that there was the lockdown, because if fans had been in the stadium for those performances, I think things could have turned sour. I think Parish should leave it at the good reception, which Hodgson deserved when he came back and relegated Watford and clapped our fans. Let's leave it at that and close the chapter. But he is favourite with the bookies, Roy Hodgson. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below who you want to succeed Vieira. For me, on the short term, Sam Allardyce. Long term, I would like Fonseca, the current Lille manager. Now, I don't know how realistic that is. Also used to manage Roma. But I think we need to look further afield than the likes of Carrick and Vincent Kompany that are being linked. But what worries me is who's going to want to come? Because, they'll look at it and see Vieira not back this season. Young managers will look at it and think, well, I'm not going to get backed. I could potentially get shafted here, and that could potentially be the end of my managerial career before it started. And tellingly, Vincent Kompany was saying how he found the decision to sack Vieira baffling today. So I think the Parish and Dougie are going to have to really sell the project to these young managers if that's the route they want to go down in the summer. It's going to be a very, very interesting few weeks. Will we hear from Steve Parish? I think he really needs to come out and talk to the fans, what is going on behind the scenes, a little bit more about the decision and what the plans are going forward. That's been my thoughts really on Vieira. A sad day, perhaps an inevitable day. Big Sam for me on the short term. It's looking like Roy. I literally cannot believe that. Long term, I would like Fonseca. Let me know your thoughts. Was it right to sack Vieira? But also, I'm really, really interested in who do you think should succeed? If it's a short-term appointment, who do you want? And who do you want as your long-term appointment? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, because it's a really interesting time now to be a Palace manager. But that's me signing out on the Vieira rank.